Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Behind every silence there is a story. Behind every quiet face there is a storm. Sometimes the loudest words are the ones never spoken, and the deepest love is hidden in the spaces between pride and fear. Tonight, I want to take you into that silence. The kind of silence that doesn't mean he doesn't care, but that he cares so much he cannot speak. He misses you, but pride keeps him quiet. And that silence tells a story far louder than words ever could. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. He misses you, yet his pride holds his voice hostage. His heart beats with memories, but his lips remain sealed. Every night he revisits the past in his mind. The laughter, the conversations, the moments that once painted his world. But when morning comes, pride whispers, "Don't reach out." He feels the emptiness, but pride convinces him that showing it is weakness. He waits, hoping you might see through his silence, hoping you might understand the unspoken. His silence is not indifference. It is fear wrapped in ego. Deep down, he longs to return, to confess, to break the distance, yet he cannot step beyond the wall of pride he built himself. The truth is, missing someone in silence is a battle only the heart understands. Pride might shield his image, but it imprisons his emotions. And while his pride keeps him quiet, his heart screams your name in ways words could never capture. In the end, silence is his choice, but it is also his curse. For he may protect his pride, but he will forever carry the weight of what he could not say. Silence is not always emptiness. Silence carries weight. It carries memories. It carries emotions too heavy to be spoken aloud. When he stays quiet, it does not mean he feels nothing. It means he feels too much. Every pause, every unspoken word, every unfinished sentence is loaded with the ache of what he wants to say but cannot. Silence is his hidden language, a language of restraint and pride, where words are trapped behind locked doors of the heart. That silence is not a void. It is full of unshed tears, full of laughter he remembers, full of nights he replays in his head, full of questions he will never ask. To you it may sound like distance, like absence, like indifference, but in reality, silence is his confession. His way of speaking without speaking, of loving without admitting, of holding on without reaching out. And the truth is, silence can be louder than any words. It's the kind of silence that lingers, that follows you into the night, that makes you wonder what he's thinking when he scrolls past your name, what he feels when he looks at your picture, what memories burn in him when the world is asleep. Silence is not emptiness. It is an ocean of emotions, waves crashing beneath the surface, yet he refuses to let them spill. He refuses to let them be heard, because pride stands guard at the shore, keeping every word locked inside. Pride builds a wall between the heart and the lips, a wall so high that even the strongest feelings cannot climb over it. His heart may scream your name, his soul may ache with longing, but the moment those emotions rise to his lips, pride stands there like a guard, shaking its head, whispering, "Don't say it, don't show it, don't bend." Pride convinces him that reaching out is weakness, that confessing his hurt is surrender, that letting you know he misses you will make him vulnerable. So he builds this wall brick by brick, with every unsent message, with every held backward, with every time he stares at his phone and then sets it down again. It is not that the heart is empty, the heart is overflowing. It is not that he doesn't care, he cares too much. But pride makes him believe that caring too much must be hidden, that longing must stay buried, that love must remain unspoken. And so his lips stay sealed while his heart bleeds quietly behind them. That wall keeps him safe, but it also keeps him imprisoned, safe from rejection, but imprisoned in silence, safe from appearing weak, but imprisoned in loneliness, safe from the fear of being misunderstood, but imprisoned in the endless cycle of what if and if only. And the longer he lets pride rule him, the thicker that wall grows, the harder it becomes to break, the heavier the silence feels. Pride does not just guard him, It cages him, it locks him inside his own emotions, it convinces him that distance is strength when in truth it is only a disguise for the fear of being seen. Missing someone can be louder in silence than in words, because silence carries echoes that words can never capture. Words can be controlled, shaped, softened, but silence is raw, it is heavy, it is unfiltered. When he misses you, he doesn't always say it, he doesn't always write it, he doesn't always let it slip through his lips. Instead, it lingers in the pauses between his thoughts. It hides in the way he looks at the world differently. It breathes in the way he stares at the ceiling late at night, replaying moments he pretends he has forgotten. His silence becomes a language of longing. It is in the sigh he lets out when no one is watching. It is in the way he avoids places that remind him of you, yet at the same time secretly seeks them out just to feel close. It is in the way he scrolls through old conversations, not to read the words, but to feel the presence that once lived in them. His silence screams louder than a confession ever could, because it is unending, because it doesn't fade when the talking stops, because it fills every empty space where your voice used to be. And the louder that silence grows, the more unbearable it becomes. It follows him in crowded rooms where laughter surrounds him but cannot touch him. It wraps around him in the quiet moments of the night when the world slows down and memories grow sharper. Silence doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't wait for the right time. It is always there, tugging at his chest, reminding him of the absence he tries to hide. And in this way, missing you without words becomes a storm no one else can see, a storm that rages behind his calm face, a storm that shakes him from within, a storm that pride forces him to swallow instead of release. He replays memories quietly but never admits it, because those memories are his secret refuge and his silent torment. In the stillness of the night, when the world is asleep, he rewinds the laughter, the conversations, the little details that no one else would notice but him. The way your eyes lit up at certain words, the pauses in your voice when emotions tried to break through, the touch that lingered longer than it should have. He carries those fragments like treasures, revisiting them in the theater of his mind again and again. But he never admits it. He never tells a soul that he still lives inside those moments, because pride convinces him that to confess such replaying would make him look weak, desperate, vulnerable. So he wears silence like armor, while inside he is trapped in a loop of yesterday. He remembers the rhythm of your laughter, the way someone remembers a song. He remembers the warmth of your presence, the way someone remembers sunlight after winter. He does not delete the memories. He polishes them in secret, holding onto them as though they are proof that what he felt was real. And yet this quiet replay becomes his curse. The more he revisits the past, the harder it becomes to escape it. The more he lives in those echoes, the less he lives in the present. He smiles at memories but bleeds behind that smile because he knows he cannot bring them back. Still, he presses play again, night after night, moment after moment, living inside what was, refusing to admit it to anyone, not even to himself fully, because pride whispers, don't show, don't reveal, don't let them know you still care. So he replays the past silently, endlessly, painfully, a prisoner of memories he calls comfort, but that wound him deeper every time. Pride makes him choose ego over confession, because ego feels safer than honesty, safer than standing bare with emotions that might not be received the way he hopes. His heart aches to confess, to say the words that burn on his tongue, but the moment they rise, pride intercepts them, whispering no. Keep your dignity, protect your image, don't let them see how much you feel. And so he hides behind the mask of indifference, even when inside he is screaming for connection. It's not that the feelings are small, they are overwhelming. It's not that he doesn't care, he cares so much it terrifies him. But pride teaches him that to admit missing someone is to hand over power, to bend, to surrender, and surrender feels like defeat. So he clings to ego because ego convinces him he is in control. He scrolls past your name, pretending not to notice. He composes words he will never send, pretending they don't matter. He rehearses confessions in silence, only to bury them before they ever reach daylight. Ego feeds his pride with illusions. Illusions that he is strong, that silence is strength, that indifference is victory. But deep down, he knows it is a hollow victory. For every time he chooses ego, he loses a chance to heal, to reconnect, to feel the freedom of honesty. Yet still he chooses it because pride is louder than the heart, because pride convinces him to hold back, to stand still, to pretend that silence is his choice when in truth it is his prison. And the longer he chooses ego, the more the distance grows, the more the silence hardens, the more confession becomes a dream locked away in the back of his mind, waiting, waiting, always waiting, but never spoken. Late nights remind him of what he lost, because night has a way of stripping away every distraction, every mask, every defense he builds in the daylight. In the noise of the day, he can pretend. He can laugh, he can work, he can keep himself busy. He can convince the world that he has moved on. But when the world grows quiet, when the lights dim, when the silence of midnight surrounds him, the truth crawls back in. That's when the weight of absence presses against his chest. That's when the memories play uninvited. That's when he realizes that no matter how far he runs, he cannot escape the echo of what once was. The night is cruel in its honesty. It hands him the truth he avoids in daylight. It shows him the space you left behind. It reminds him of the voice he no longer hears. It replays the moments he thought were small, but now feel enormous. The smallest details come alive at night. The way you used to say certain words, the rhythm of your breathing, the comfort of presence that once made everything feel less heavy. These fragments haunt him, not as shadows, but as living memories that refuse to fade. He doesn't speak of it, he doesn't admit it, but every night when he lays his head on the pillow, the silence whispers your absence louder than any dream could. He stares at the ceiling, replaying, questioning, regretting, wondering if he should have said something, done something, been something different. He flips the pillow, tosses, turns, but the night keeps handing him reminders. Reminders of what slipped away. Reminders of what he let pride bury. Reminders of a love that feels close enough to touch but forever out of reach. And so the late hours become his battlefield, a place where he fights with memory, with longing, with silence, with himself, yet never wins, never ends, never escapes. His silence is not indifference. It is fear of vulnerability. To the outside world, his quiet may look like coldness, like detachment, like he has moved on without a second thought. But the truth beneath that mask is far different. Silence is not the absence of feeling. Silence is the overflowing of feeling that he is too afraid to release. He worries that if he speaks, his voice will tremble. He worries that if he confesses, he will be exposed. Vulnerability terrifies him, not because he doesn't want to be understood, but because he fears what will happen if he is. So he hides behind silence, because silence feels safer than being open. He convinces himself that if he says nothing, he cannot be rejected. If he reveals nothing, he cannot be judged. If he holds everything in, then no one can ever wound him deeper than he already is. And yet that silence does not heal him. It cages him. It forces him to carry the weight of words unsaid, to bear the burden of emotions that grow heavier with every passing day. He is not indifferent. If he were indifferent, he would not replay the past in the quiet moments. If he were indifferent, he would not hesitate at the thought of reaching out. If he were indifferent, he would not feel the sting of regret that hides behind every silence he chooses. His quiet is not proof of apathy. It is proof of fear. Fear that if he steps forward, he might lose the last piece of dignity his pride protects. Fear that if he opens his heart, it might not be met with the warmth he hopes for. Fear that being vulnerable will strip him bare, leaving him defenseless, leaving him broken in ways he may not know how to recover from. And so he sits in that silence, pretending it is strength, when in reality it is the trembling shelter of someone who cares too much but is terrified of showing it. Someone who wants to speak but chokes on his own emotions. Someone who hides because revealing would make him bleed in ways no one else could see. Pride blinds him from reaching out first, because in his mind the act of reaching out feels like surrender, like lowering the shield he has carried for so long. He holds his phone, his fingers hover over the screen, his heart races with words he desperately wants to send. But then pride steps in, whispering that silence is safer, that silence is stronger, that silence proves he doesn't need anyone. And so he puts the phone down, convincing himself that if you want to hear from him, you will reach out first, even though deep down he knows he is the one who longs the most. Pride blinds him to the reality that connection requires humility, that healing requires the courage to take the first step. Instead, he hides behind the illusion of control. He tells himself, I will not bend. I will not be the one to break the silence. I will not let them see me weak. And yet, every time he refuses to reach out, his silence betrays him. His pride may protect his image, but it robs him of peace. It convinces him that distance is dignity, when in truth it is nothing but loneliness wrapped in stubbornness. He is blinded, unable to see that waiting becomes suffering, that silence becomes poison, that the longer he clings to pride, the harder it becomes to undo the damage. He mistakes pride for strength, but true strength would have been in admitting the truth, in stepping forward, in breaking the wall he built. Still he waits, hoping somehow you will bridge the gap for him, hoping the silence will end without him ever having to lower his guard. But the silence stretches, the distance grows, and the weight of unspoken words becomes unbearable. Pride blinds him to the possibility that love is not about winning or losing, but about surrendering enough to be real, about caring enough to step forward first, about risking the fall just to feel alive again. And yet he does not see it, because pride keeps his eyes closed, his hands tied, his voice muted, and his heart restless in a prison he built with his own fear. He hopes you'll notice without him saying, because silence has become his shield, and behind that shield he hides the wish that somehow you will see through the walls he refuses to lower. He tells himself, if they truly knew me, if they truly felt what I feel, they would understand without me having to confess. So he waits, quietly, stubbornly, desperately, believing that his unspoken emotions will somehow speak for him. He lingers in the places where your shadow remains, not to be seen, but to feel close, hoping that maybe, just maybe, you will sense the pull of his longing even in his absence. He scrolls past your name but pauses longer than he should. He looks at your picture but pretends it means nothing. He remembers moments that made him smile but never admits that they still live inside him. And in the quiet corners of his heart, he believes that you might feel it too, that you might sense the weight of his silence, that you might recognize the ache hidden in his stillness. He convinces himself that love should not always need words, that the bond should be strong enough to reveal itself without explanation. Yet the truth is, silence is easily mistaken for indifference, and he does not see that while he waits for you to notice, the distance only grows wider. His hope becomes his prison, because he chooses to believe you will come closer while he refuses to move an inch. He waits for signs, for gestures, for something that will save him from lowering his pride, but nothing comes, and still he holds on, still he believes, still he prays that maybe one day you will simply know, that you will feel the tug of his heart even though his lips remain sealed, even though his pride keeps him frozen, even though he refuses to risk the vulnerability of saying what consumes him inside. And so he continues hoping endlessly, quietly, painfully, as if silence alone could bridge the gap that words were meant to cross. The weight of unsaid words grows heavier with time because silence is not empty. It collects everything that was never spoken, everything that was swallowed, everything that pride refused to release. At first, the silence feels light, almost manageable. A single word left unsaid, a single thought tucked away, a single emotion hidden behind a half-mile. But as days pass, the unsaid begins to multiply. One word turns into a sentence into a paragraph into an entire story that never finds its voice. He carries it with him like invisible luggage. Every memory he replays adds another layer to the silence. Every what if he avoids speaking aloud adds another brick to the wall he has built. He goes about his days, but inside the silence presses against him, weighing down his chest, making every breath heavier. And the cruel truth is, time does not dissolve silence, it strengthens it. The longer the words remain unspoken, the sharper they become, the harder they are to release. What could have been a soft confession becomes a choking lump in the throat. What could have been an easy truth becomes a burden that bends his back. He tells himself that one day he might speak, but the longer he waits, the more impossible it feels. The silence grows into a habit, and the habit grows into a prison. He starts to wonder if speaking would even matter anymore, if the moment has passed, if the chance has dissolved into the past. Yet the words do not disappear. They echo in him, they repeat in his mind at night, they burn in his chest in the quiet hours when nothing else can drown them out. And so, the weight of silence becomes unbearable. It changes the way he thinks, the way he feels, the way he looks at the world. He hides the heaviness with laughter, he buries it under distractions, but it never leaves him. The unsaid always lingers, pressing down, reminding him of what he could not bring himself to say, what he still longs to release but keeps locked away, because pride holds the key, and pride will not open the door. So he walks with it, sleeps with it, breathes with it, as the silence grows heavier and heavier, never lifting, never easing, never ending. Pride protects him but also isolates him, because in his mind pride feels like armor, a shield that keeps his heart safe from rejection, from judgment, from the fear of appearing too fragile. He wears it like a soldier wears steel, believing that as long as it stays on, no one can wound him. Pride convinces him that silence is strength, that distance is dignity, that control is more important than connection. And so, he hides inside this armor, untouched, unbroken on the outside, but starving on the inside. For while pride may protect, it also builds walls so high that no one can climb them, not even the one he longs for. He becomes untouchable, but also unreachable. He keeps the world at arm's length, not realizing that in doing so, he keeps love at arm's length too. Pride whispers to him that he is winning, that he is standing tall, that he has not bent to weakness. But when the night comes, when silence surrounds him, he feels the hollowness of that victory. What good is armor if it keeps everyone out? What good is protection if it comes at the cost of connection? He isolates himself without even meaning to. His pride pushes away the very comfort he craves, the very closeness he dreams of, the very healing he needs. He is safe, yes, but he is alone, surrounded by walls so thick that even his own emotions echo back to him, louder and heavier. He may laugh among people, he may appear confident, he may walk as though nothing touches him. But deep down he knows pride is both his shield and his prison, both his protector and his executioner. And the longer he lets it rule him, the deeper the isolation grows, the colder the silence becomes, the further his heart drifts into loneliness. Pride guards him from pain, yet delivers him into emptiness, and still he clings to it, because he fears what might happen if he ever sets it down, if he ever dares to step outside that armor, If he ever risks being seen without the mask of strength he hides behind every single day, he wants to return, but silence keeps him away, because every step forward feels chained by the weight of words he never spoke, by the pride he never let go of, by the fear that reaching back will expose just how much he still cares. In his heart the pull is strong, the longing undeniable. He imagines what it would be like to hear your voice again, to sit in the comfort of your presence, to rebuild what was lost brick by brick. But the silence he has chosen has grown too thick, too loud, too heavy. It is no longer just a pause. It is a wall, a distance, a canyon he does not know how to cross. He wants to return, but every time he thinks of doing so, silence whispers to him that it is too late, that the moment has passed, that reaching out now would only expose his vulnerability. He wants to return, but his pride tells him that if he comes back small. He comes back humbled. He comes back admitting that he was never as strong as he pretended to be. And so he hesitates. He stands at the edge of his longing, staring across at what he misses, but refusing to take the step that would bring him closer. And the silence keeps him away, not because he doesn't want to break it, but because it has become his language, his habit, his prison. The longer he stays quiet, the more impossible it feels to speak. He rehearses words in his mind, apologies, confessions, truths, but swallows them before they reach his lips. He tells himself, tomorrow I will say something, tomorrow I will try. But tomorrow becomes another yesterday and the silence remains unbroken. He wants to return, but he fears the door may no longer be open, that his absence has spoken louder than his presence ever could. He wants to return, but silence convinces him that distance is safer than rejection, that longing in secret is easier than risking his pride. And so he lingers in the shadows of memory, circling the thought of coming back but never daring to move, always wishing, always waiting, always held back by the silence that wraps around him like chains he forged with his own hands. The heart speaks, but pride commands silence. Deep inside, the heart beats with truths it cannot hold back. It whispers late at night. It cries in the quiet. It trembles in the presence of memories that refuse to fade. The heart does not care about dignity. It does not care about winning or losing. It does not care about appearing strong. It only cares about connection, about release, about love. The heart speaks in waves, in restless pulses, in a language that is raw and unfiltered, begging to be heard, begging to be expressed. But every time the heart rises to the surface, pride stands taller. Pride interrupts like a stern voice saying, no, don't show them, don't let them see how much you still feel, don't bend, don't risk. The heart pleads for honesty, but pride orders silence. The heart aches to reach out, but pride folds the hands. The heart longs to confess, but pride locks the lips. And so a war rages within him. Heart versus pride, love versus ego, vulnerability versus fear. The heart speaks with urgency, reminding him that life is short, that chances are fleeting, that silence does not heal, it corrodes. The heart shouts, say it now, before it's too late, before regret becomes permanent, before the distance becomes irreversible. But pride is louder, colder, sharper. Pride commands silence like a ruler commanding obedience, and he obeys, even though the obedience costs him his peace. And this battle never ends. The heart continues to speak, continues to ache, continues to push against the walls that pride has built. And pride continues to silence it, to suppress it, to bury it beneath layers of fear and ego. And he lives caught between the two, a man whose heart is full but whose lips are sealed, whose soul longs to break free but whose pride keeps him chained. And so he walks through life in contradiction, his heart screaming on the inside, but his silence echoing on the outside, endlessly, painfully, without release, without resolution, without ending. Missing someone in silence is a hidden battle, a war that no one else can see, a struggle fought behind calm eyes and steady faces. On the outside he looks composed, unshaken, untouched by the absence. He laughs when he is supposed to. He works when the world demands it. He carries on as if life has not been torn apart. But inside a storm rages, a storm of memories, longings, questions, regrets. It is the kind of battle fought not with words but with restraint, not with weapons but with silence, not against another person but against himself. Every day he wakes with the weight of what he does not say. Every night he goes to sleep with the ache of what he cannot admit. His silence becomes both his shield and his battlefield, a place where he hides yet also a place where he bleeds. He misses in secret, he aches in shadows, he fights against the urge to reach out, to confess, to let his heart spill. And though no one can see it, though he will never reveal it, the battle leaves scars. Scars of loneliness, scars of pride, scars of longing that never finds release. Missing someone in silence is exhausting. It is fighting against your own heart every single day, telling it to stay quiet when it wants to scream, telling it to stay strong when it wants to collapse, telling it to endure when it wants to reach out and break the distance. He smiles while fighting. He speaks while hiding. He carries himself with dignity while inside he is being torn apart. No one else knows, no one else sees, because he makes sure they don't. But he knows, his heart knows, his sleepless nights know. And the silence never ends. It drags on, stretching across days, weeks, months, while the battle continues. Every memory that resurfaces is another attack. Every dream that reminds him of what he lost is another wound. Every moment of quiet is another battlefield where his pride and his longing collide. Missing in silence is not weakness, it is war. War with himself, war with his fear, war with the chains of pride that hold him down, a war he continues to fight endlessly, endlessly, endlessly in the end. Pride may win the war, but the heart suffers the loss. Pride stands tall, chest out, convincing him that silence is victory, that distance is dignity, that holding back is power. On the surface, it looks like he has conquered his emotions. He did not bend, he did not break, he did not confess. He wears his composure like a medal, as if he has proven to the world that he cannot be shaken. But deep within, his heart whispers a different story, a story of defeat, a story of longing, a story of wounds left untreated. Because pride wins battles only on the outside. It wins in the eyes of others who see his stillness and assume strength. It wins in the quiet moments when he convinces himself he is unbothered. But the heart does not play by those rules. The heart does not measure strength by silence, it measures it by truth. The heart does not seek victory, it seeks peace. And every time pride silences the heart, it robs him of that peace. He may win the war of appearances, but he loses the war within. He loses the warmth of connection. He loses the healing that comes from honesty. He loses the chance to soften the sharp edges of regret. Pride leaves him standing tall but empty, silent but restless, strong but lonely. And as time passes, the loss only deepens. The silence stretches, the distance hardens, and the heart grows heavier with everything unsaid. And though pride tells him he is unbroken, his heart knows it is not true. His heart feels the cracks, the fractures, the quiet bleeding that no one else can see. Pride may lift his head high, but it also lowers his soul into shadows. Pride may keep him undefeated in the eyes of the world, but in the privacy of his nights, when no one is watching, he knows he has already lost. Lost the chance to speak, lost the chance to heal, lost the chance to love without fear. And so the war continues, pride marching on with banners of false strength, while the heart grows weaker, quieter, lonelier, carrying the weight of a loss it cannot confess, a loss it cannot repair, a loss it cannot end, and maybe one day, when the weight of silence becomes too heavy, when the walls of pride begin to crack, when the loneliness grows louder than fear, he will realize that strength was never in holding back. It was always in letting go. Strength was never in silence. It was in speaking. Strength was never in pride. It was in love. Because in the end, pride can keep him quiet, but it cannot quiet the heart. The heart will always remember, the heart will always ache, the heart will always speak, whether he admits it or not. So he walks on, carrying what he cannot say, hiding what he cannot show, protecting what is already broken. Pride may keep him still, but his heart will forever tell the truth.